We've got Nkosi Kulele Nyembezi, who's with the election watchdog, the Election Monitoring Network, and he joins us now via Zoom from Durban. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, so what work have you been able to do as this election has been unfolding?
Well, we deployed election observers throughout the country, but KwaZulu-Natal has been quite a particular area of focus because of the high number of hotspots we have here, relying on mainly the faith-based component of our constituencies, the KwaZulu-Natal Christian Council, the interfaith faith leaders. We have been able to have a visibility in this province of KwaZulu-Natal and everywhere in the country, and that has helped in terms of ensuring that everything runs smoothly.
And what sort of feedback have you been getting from your monitors?
Well, people went to vote, a lot of them early in the morning, and we have seen that there's been tolerance in many areas. And of course, where we have received some flagging to say there were problems, we have been able to dispatch the conflict management. You see areas like Nongoma, they remained high tension areas and some parts in the south coast, but luckily nothing has spilled out to become out of hand. Of course, we know that a lot of people were involved in the voter education since the first proclamation of the elections. And I think that investment has helped a lot so that people know how to vote, where to vote, and it has really helped. One of the concerns that came up was in terms of the loan sharks that had confiscated ID documents for people owing money. So we also helped by the community advice offices to intervene in those areas to ensure that people get their IDs back, or at least they go to Home Affairs to get renewed IDs.
So are you satisfied that everybody who could have voted and wanted to was able to?
Yes, we are, in the sense that the tally or the update we received by midday, it was indicating that a majority of stations had accounted for over 50% of the people that they were expecting to vote. And of course, in these areas, you find that an average station has got about 1,100 people they were expecting to come and vote. So we're hoping that for the afternoon, the balance of those numbers will come through, and that when they come through, even after dark, we're hoping that the voting station will not be overwhelmed by long queues. And indeed, that has been the kind of reporting we have been receiving. And I think that late morning, the stations, they got used to how to use this technology such that the slow and blockages that were reported in the morning, they were at least normalized going for lunchtime. And that is one other thing that we commend in terms of the commitment of the staff of the IEC.
And are you happy that everybody was well taken care of in terms of the voting process? Because it can be quite intimidating for some citizens.
I think a lot was done everybody was trying their best. I was in Mahlabatini, for example, just after 2 to see Shenge voting there, the leader of the IFP. And because of the slow process there, the system was either offline or it was not reading the IDs correctly. So it was also a bit of a babysitting, just to ensure that everything went smooth. But what we commend most is the cooperation of party agents to be able to say, if somebody walks in who is in need of assistance, how do we deal with this? Assisting the person of the IC who is in charge of the station. So we haven't had complaints of people being treated unfairly. And I think locally, the people for each voting station were able to take a proactive action to ensure that every voter is attended to. We can also commend the fact that special votes in the first 2 days, the 30th of October and the 31st, have given a dry run in the sense that people who had applied to get the special votes were allowed to vote, and it helped the officials to get used to the system. I think it was a plus.
Were there any electoral issues that were reported to you or that you observed that were of a concern, or would you say that by and large that we're going to get a fairly reflective result of the situation on the ground in terms of those that wanted to vote, they had their say?
By and large, we will get a free and fair election. I think the strength of that is the investment that was made in the training of both the IEC staff and the election observers, the party agents, especially also because they were independent candidates, a significant number this time around. That investment in the training of people has made sure that everything runs smooth by and large, particularly because we had amendment of legislations in the last 2 or 3 years, which meant that there were new things that were done differently. But to the extent that everybody was able to catch up in terms of knowing what to do, we commend that. For example, we had an issue with voters whose names did not appear on the printed voters roll. And that was explained by the IEC to say the proclamation of the election date happened immediately after the last voter registration weekend. And so in the case where you encounter somebody whose name does not appear on the printed voters roll, you bring them into the station so that we can look at the electronic version. And then indeed those people were assisted by and large. And to the extent that political parties, party agents were satisfied with the process, we believe that once the votes, the ballots are counted, they will be signing on those ballot slips to say that everybody in each voting station owns up to that process.
All right, so the people have voted, they've decided. Has your work come to an end, or are you still monitoring the rest of the process? Because the counting starts now, doesn't it?
We are monitoring going forward, especially because in some areas there have been tensions already, and we already have seen that in some areas that counting process needs to ensure that it's handled by the the eyes and hands that do not have a fatigue, and that we also want to ensure that there is an acceptance of the results. You know, what is particularly interesting this time around is that these elections, the predictions are not too many. The issues about the polls and how the voting patterns will work have been very dry. It has been a desert. Even Statistics SA had information that was, in terms of their regular surveys, that was delayed. So it means that anything can come either way. So to the extent that everybody is looking with interest as to what the outcome is going to be, we also hope that the spirit of wanting to accept the outcome of the results is going to come okay. We had seen an increase in the number of independent candidates, and we hope that they're going to count this time around, because the mood outside the voting station has also been showing that some people came to vote for independent candidates. So everything is high up in the air, and we remain on standby such that we may need to deploy people to assist in areas where we might be experiencing a problem.
All right, and that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you so much indeed for joining us and giving us some assurances. I think by and large we can be happy with what you've seen and observed, and that the people's voice, as smaller as it is, has been heard. Thank you so much for your time.